All right, welcome back. Episode 8 of 666 Seconds of Metal. That means that each of these episodes is 666 seconds or less. That's 11 minutes and 6 seconds. And I got Shane here with me all the way from Canada. What's up, dude?
What's up? Enjoying fucking El Nino, man.
Yeah, it's like in the 50s here. It's crazy. It's crazy. But tonight, we're going to talk about what got us into heavy metal. So everybody's got their own little journey here. So Shane, why don't you start it off? What got you going on into metal?
Yeah, well, right on. Early on, I really didn't have the standard influence of like older brothers or cool cousin or anything like that. So my early influences came from my parents. There was no Barney or anything like that growing up. So I was raised on rock and roll and 70s disco. I know way too many disco songs. Most of my other influences were from the radio. I started being drawn to songs with emphasis on heavy guitar, stuff like Aldo Nova, Fantasy, Kim Mitchell, Go for His Soda, just a little bit more guitar driven. And sure, a couple friends had older brothers that listened to Kiss, maybe AC/DC, but I was never really into that. And then it got into hair metal, 83, 84, 85 era. And it was all about the hair metal. I started listening to like Quiet Riot, Def Leppard, Rat, Helix. Then I started noticing the jean jacket patches for Iron Maiden and Judas Priest. And fuck, I was deep into the Iron Maiden, man. They were a real catalyst for me. Then it started into the Sabbath, Priest, Ozzy. So things started getting a bit darker after that, darker and heavier than the hair metal. Then 86, 87 came along, and those hit really fucking hard. Every metalhead out there knows 86,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how or why, it just felt like a natural progression. I was living in a isolated area at the time, so I didn't have satellite TV or record stores, but I did discover metal zines and the old Columbia Record Club. Ordered everything through the mail. Right. Yeah, that Columbia Record Club was great. A great way to build a collection.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. And I'd call record stores to order stuff and, I'd start bullshitting with the guy and he would recommend stuff and I'd end up buying what they're talking about. And yeah, that was 86, 87. So there are greats like Slayer, Rain and Blood, Master of Puppets, Peace Cells, Among the Living, and so those are classics, and that led me to Overkill, Exodus, Testament. So the big seven right there.
Right.
Then around 90, 91, it was death metal. Discovered death metal. I was finally out of isolation, had access to record stores and venues to see shows, and death was just the next level after thrash, just kicked it up a notch.
Right.
When I first heard Spiritual Healing, it was like, fuck, this is great. This is what I wanted all along. And
right.
Obituary, Slowly Rot, Carcass, those were just put me over the edge. That was it. Those were my big influences. And right around that time, though, what else was coming out was grunge. And yeah, I like that too. So got a lot of grunge influences. Faith No More, Nirvana, Butthole Surfers. At the same time, still listening to heavier stuff. Sepultura, Pantera.
Right.
White Zombie, Fear Factory, stuff like that. And that's where it pretty much stayed, being the same ever since. Just a very eclectic mix of various genres of death and thrash and other metal.
That's
Don't
cool.
suppose it'll ever change, I'll end up in the old folks' home listening to
that. Well, our paths are very different here. I was really interested to hear what you had to say. I grew up with a father that didn't even have a radio in his car. Refused to have a radio in the car. So my mom listened to like top 40, but my dad was like not about it at all. So anyway, I was in junior high and I remember and they never would fly today. They brought a rock band in and we had like an assembly in the gym and this shit was loud. I mean, they were ripping, playing like Heart and Aerosmith and stuff like that. This would have been late 70s. And so I was just like, holy shit, what did I just see, And then started buying albums, bought Blizzard of Oz, and the first Van Halen album.
Classic.
Started listening to that stuff, some Zeppelin. And then, once I started driving, I remember my very first concert, 1983, Iron Maiden, Peace of Mind. That was my first metal show, and I was totally floored. Of course, being a bass player, I just had started playing, and I got to see Steve Harris. Totally blew my mind.
That'd be a dream, no doubt.
Totally blew my mind, And like you, I listened to some of the hair metal stuff. But then I remembered going to see Metallica on the Ride the Lightning tour, and it was a blizzard. And I went and I got to see Cliff Burton, and that totally changed everything. And that's what got me into the heavier stuff, because they were playing with Armored Saint and Wasp, and I liked all three of the bands, but I didn't like Metallica as much at that time because it was just a little bit much for me at the time, listening to more of the mainstream. But then when I saw them, I was totally blown away, and then I got into the, Venom and Slayer and Merciful Fate and Overkill and all those bands, a lot of the bands you mentioned, Testament, Exodus, Anthrax, all that stuff. I grew up on the East Coast in the U.S., and so those were, my path. And then strangely, I had a real bad fallout with my first band I was in, and I completely detached from music for 10 years, from 1988 to 1998, I didn't buy one album. The only stuff I listened to was stuff I already had. So it was like Rip Van Winkle. When I came...
that's very coincidental to me, though, actually. I had a decade where I had health problems, and I was getting headaches all the time. Didn't listen to anything for like 10 years.
Interesting. Yeah, for me... Coming back in 98, I missed the whole grunge thing. So everybody bitches about that. And I just fell asleep through the whole thing. So when I came back into the scene in 98, I started playing in Low 12 and all that, and just kind of picked up where I left off. And I've been getting more into death metal in the last few years. I've liked some death metal, but it was never a thing I would go to unless it was on. But then, maybe sometime in the early to mid Low 12 era, which would have been 98 to 2016 when we stopped. But that's when I started listening to, Carcass, Cannibal Corpse, Obituary, and some of that sort of stuff too. And doing the podcast, Murder Metal Mayhem, exposed to a lot of music, a lot of heavy stuff. And I've always gravitated towards it. I think it's just, it seems to fit my personality, and I love the subject matter and the whole imagery of it. I really dig the heavier stuff. So thrash, death, for me are the two genres I like the most, but I do like some classic metal as well. If I'm with the wife, we're usually doing more of the classic metal than the super, super heavy stuff. But
as a horror author, I could really see the tie-in.
Yeah, the subject matter, especially like King Diamond. I love the stories, in the King Diamond albums. I really love that. I loved Operation Mindcrime when it came out. I thought it was, really cool, even though they pretty much took the 1984 story. Everybody made them out to be like these savants, but it's like, I don't know if I'd go that far. But anyway, it was a great album. It's just the story was kind of borrowed. But yeah, so I thought that was cool. I think, if anybody watching us, metalheads out there, everybody's got a story, and I just thought it would be cool to share our stories. So very cool. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that.
That was fun to hear, Pete.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Drop some comments below. Let us know what you think. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you guys
Let us know where you started. Horns fucking high.
That's right. Horns high. We'll see you next time.